Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 7 of season 4 of The Flash, Oh Come All Ye Thankful. And it's kind of nice to see the Thanksgiving episode this year. And all in all, I thought this was a fairly solid episode. I've noticed that one thing that's good in The Flash is when all the subplots are kind of centered around a central theme. And we sometimes see this on other shows on the CW. And of course, this time around, our theme is fathers and daughters. You've got Weather Wizard and his daughter. You've got Barry and Nora. You've got Cicada and technically his niece, but essentially his adopted daughter. And of course, you've even got a little bit of where was I going with that? Oh they do mention Cecile and Joe spending time with. Okay, forget about Joe and Cecile. I don't quite know where I was going with that one. Anyway, let's get right into it. Now, it is kind of ridiculous that Weather Wizard's daughter, Weather Witch, just happens to come across tech that lets her have powers the same as her father. But, it's comics, so these sort of strong themes are just sort of a given. At least with Black Lightning, it's kind of makes sense that one of his daughters has electrical powers because he himself has electrical powers. But again, it's all about, themes and things like that are what really resonate more than pure logic in comics. Weather Witch, I don't know anything about her. In the comics, Weather Wizard does have a son, but he was like a baby in the story that I read years ago. And oddly enough, it was actually that storyline. Like the one time I met Jeff Johns, I complimented him on the whole story with like finding out that Weather Wizard had a son, because it really was a very good story. And I happened to meet him at Comic Con in San Diego, and that story had just recently come out, and I went over to him and I said, like, hey man, that was a really good story. I loved that moment where Weather Wizard goes, give me my son. And then I was able to talk with him for a little bit about Teen Titans, which he was also writing at the time. So I guess that probably would have been like, what, 2001? Oh boy, time flies. But yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Anyway. Um, Now, Joss's reasons for like wanting to kill her dad seem pretty thin. It's like, oh, he abandoned my family. Well, mean, he basically said like, well, yeah, I was in high school when my daughter was born. What would he really have had to offer? It's just kind of a weird thing. I don't know. I actually knew one or two guys in high school who had fathered kids and, or at least had a girlfriend who was pregnant. And honestly, out of all of those guys, only one of them even seemed to have any grasp of what it was like to sort of be responsible in this situation. Yeah, so I am not the least bit surprised at what Weather Wizard did there. And, I don't hold any great hope that him being involved in Joss's life would have made her life all that much better. But when you're looking for a scapegoat, you don't really care about those sort of things. And given all that she's done, why didn't Joss just break into prison and kill him? As other people have pointed out, well, it's kind of convenient that Ralph wasn't around in this episode for no unexplained reason, because he could have used his shape-shifting powers to impersonate Weather Wizard, and then having a car dropped on him wouldn't have hurt him. Clever thing though, using the hologram technology like that. I was genuinely like, oh crap, they killed Weather Wizard. We haven't seen him in years, but still, Weather Wizard's a pretty classic Flash villain. So yeah, a nice thing there, and it kind of again gave Iris a chance to shine. So good there. Um, the subplot with what's going on with Sherlock and his extreme disdain for family gatherings and all of that, and him just sort of bah humbugging so much that it even turned Cisco against Thanksgiving. That was a little bit of lightheartedness that I think was needed. I was actually half expecting him to like, oh hey Cisco, remember how your brother's dead? Yeah, what do you got? So it's just going to be you and your parents, I guess. Uh, Thankfully, Sherlock wasn't that heartless about the whole situation. And even Caitlin is sort of like, oh yeah, this kind of time of year kind of sucks. And then Killer Frost just steps in and is like, God, you guys are just a bunch of whiny little bastards. You've got like people who love and care about you. Even Sherlock, and he's a dick. Suck it up and be thankful for what you have. And she makes a good point. And of course, that's the point that's really at the heart of Thanksgiving, is that you should take some time to be thankful for the good things you have in life. I mean, everybody has problems, everybody has struggles, everybody suffers losses and setbacks, has bad things happen. But, as was once famously observed, it can't rain all the time. In fact, this what Killer Frost is pointing out is actually kind of one of the core tenements of multitude of religions and philosophies. Stoicism, I've always thought, was especially good about this. We're pointing out where, like, yeah, like, and I remember there's this really great book I read about it, Stoic Thought or something like that, or something, I can't remember exactly. But it was this really great book explaining the philosophy of Stoicism. And basically they said that you should, once a day, just sort of take a minute to sort of look around at your life and be thankful and grateful for the things that you do have. Be glad that you have food. Be glad that you've got clothes on your back and a roof over your head. And philosophies and religions across the world and across time have said the exact same thing. I always sort of like these little moments where you realize that, yeah, it's just sort of like just saying like stop whining and be thankful for what you have is just done in this sort of very offhanded, casual thing. But it doesn't change the fact that it's still genuinely extremely good advice, and advice that is rooted in very deep in things like religion and philosophy. And that's actually really one of the things that I enjoy so much about comic books, is that they are part of literary tradition, that they do reflect a great deal of ideas and influences from all sorts of sources: literature, philosophy, religion. Now, I'm not one of those people that really likes to sit around and write these big, long essays about like the philosophy of Batman or whatever. I mean, I've read some of those books that people have created, and frankly, by and large, they're all pretty much boring as all hell. Uh, but it doesn't mean that those ideas aren't there and that they aren't worth discussing. It's just if you're going to do that, kind of take a page from the wisecrack guys on YouTube and do it in such a way that it's interesting. I mean, there's just so much you can do with ideas like that and have it seem really interesting. But again, when we go to those philosophy books that I was just talking about, like, oh my God, they're just so dull. I mean, I will never forget the one time I started reading this paper somebody had written. It was like, the economics of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And it's just like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer never had a thing worth a damn to say about economics. Okay, so we've gotten monstrously sidetracked, but yeah, don't waste your time reading any of those the philosophy of pop culture themed books. I've looked at quite a few of them, and by and large, they're pretty garbage and boring. Anyway, getting back to things here. Um, I do like that they did kind of. We finally find out more about Cicada's origin story and the idea of Grace turning out not to be his daughter but his niece. That was nicely done. It kind of gives them a chance to sort of throw the Flash family down like a wrong arrow. Like, well, okay, it can't be this guy because it can't be her because her parents are dead. Now, nonetheless, I mean, eventually they do work around this and they find out, like, okay, Cicada is this Orlin guy. Now, that's cool because it means um, that one major detail of the future that Nora came from has been changed. So that's important. And remember, she even said, like, Supergirl tried to figure this out. Oliver Queen tried to figure it out. Even the League wasn't able to figure out who Cicada was. And given that they've all but flat out said that Batman exists in the Arrowverse, I mean, never mind the stuff that's coming down the road in the near future, the mention of Bruce Wayne by name on Arrow a couple of years back when we basically got a cameo by Harley Quinn. Yeah, that means even Batman was not able to figure out who Cicada was. Batman could not figure this out. I mean, granted, we assume that Batman was in the League at the time, but Batman is usually in the League a lot more than he's out of it, and come on, something like this, there's no way he wouldn't have taken a crack at it. But we also learned that the Flash Museum sanitized a few details from history, like, the death of Ronnie Raymond, and played Barry up to be much more godlike than he really is. And okay, it's meant to be, the Flash Museum is meant to be basically a giant shrine to Barry and the other speedsters. So yeah, of course they're going to play that up. Kind of weird, though, that they would overlook Ronnie's death, considering that, he was one of Barry's allies, and that Ronnie's death is something that seriously haunted Barry for a long time, and it was a big, big deal for Caitlin, who was one of Barry's closest friends and allies, somebody who's basically been in his corner since day one. So the idea that Nora wouldn't know about what happened to Ronnie seems a little weird to me, but okay, we'll just let that happen. We'll just have to let that particular detail slide. And let's see. I did like how Nora kind of has this idea here. It's sort of like, well, what if you just stop being the Flash? And her freaking out about Barry almost getting killed. I mean, it's all utterly irrational, really, because, he's Barry. Of course he's not going to do that. But emotionally, it's extremely understandable. Of course no one wants the people they love to put themselves in danger. But this is what Barry has chosen to do with his life. It's what, police officers and firemen choose to do with their lives. Yeah, sure, it's risky, sure, it's dangerous, but it's necessary. And, she does come around and does realize, like, asking him to walk away from this, that in and of itself is both selfish and wrong. Never mind what she would be depriving the world of and the city of by having the Flash just give up and walk away. I mean, the Flash and Barry is one of the greatest heroes of the DC universe. And he's been repeatedly held up as being like someone who's like, Superman, one of the most moral people. Batman does have his ambiguous moments. Even Wonder Woman, in the more modern interpretations, is not above killing if it's absolutely necessary. But Superman and the Flash are people who are very much of that much more older school where it's sort of like, life is sacred and we can't ever do this. We really have to draw that very firm line in the sand. There is a reason, for example, like why in the comics Barry was chosen as a Blue Lantern, someone who embodies hope. Incidentally, Ray Palmer was chosen as a member of the Indigo tribe, who are people who embody compassion, um, or work with the emotion of compassion, I suppose is a more accurate way to put it. While Batman was, they tried to recruit Batman into the Sinestro Corps, which is all about the emotion of fear and, our serious bad guys. It didn't work, but still, good stuff. Anyway, I think that's good for right now. So let's stop right here, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, please comment, rate, subscribe, and join me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi and Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.